nice to see you again. I'm glad that you decided to come back for a second session. How are you feeling today? Okay. And what kind of week have you had? Okay, I see. Okay. Okay. Did you have any thoughts or questions or worries left over from our last session? Okay. Okay. I see. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do today is I'm going to tell you a little bit about human psychology, and this will help us to understand a little bit about why you are experiencing the problems that you're experiencing at the moment, and also the factors that have made you vulnerable to developing these problems in the first place. And we can then use this information to plan your treatment. How does that sound? Okay, so I'm going to draw you a diagram, which I'm going to give you at the end of the session to take away. So all you have to do is sit and listen and try to, I suppose, absorb the information that I'm giving to you. Okay. Are you ready to begin? Okay. Okay, so our personality is made up of 3 beliefs. Beliefs about ourselves. So our worth, our value. Are we good enough? Are we likeable, lovable, interesting? The second belief is beliefs about others. So, how we expect to be treated by others. Do we expect to be treated well, with understanding, kindness, respect? Do we expect to be misrepresented or mistreated, for example? Okay. And the third belief that makes up our personality is a belief about the world. Is the world a safe place, a fair place, a place where good things happen on the whole, or not? Okay. Now, when something happens to us, event, that event is filtered through the lens of our personality. Like this. Our personality and the beliefs that we have about ourselves, others and the world influences how we think about that event, think about what has happened. So it determines our day-to-day thoughts. Now, these thoughts are what we are most aware of. And although it is possible to access these deep thoughts on a day-to-day basis, this is what we're most aware of. And it's these day-to-day thoughts that influence how we feel. Okay, so it's far easier to access similar thoughts. So you find that when you're worrying about something, you notice you then start worrying about lots of different things. If you're feeling very down or depressed about something, all the bad things in your life seem to crowd into your head. It's easier to think about them. But then when you feel happy, you don't tend to think about those things as much. Okay, so moving on. How we feel influences what we do. So it influences our behaviour. So when we feel happy and positive, we go out in the world and we get things done and we achieve things. But when we feel down or depressed or maybe anxious, we tend to withdraw and avoid. Now the other interesting thing is that what we do also influences how we feel. Yeah. There's another feedback loop. So if we are out in the world achieving and getting things done, it makes us feel better. But if we are withdrawing or hiding or avoiding, that tends to make us feel worse. Okay. One more arrow to draw. There we go. And what we do, our behaviour, also influences how we think on a day-to-day basis. So we're getting out in the world and we're achieving things. We think, okay, I'm doing okay, this is good. We are hiding away from the world or avoiding the things that we should be doing. We think more negatively about ourselves. I know I said one more arrow, but actually I've just remembered there's another arrow. Because all of this everything that's going on down here then feeds back into our personality. What we're doing, how we're feeling, and how we're thinking feeds back into our fundamental or core beliefs about ourselves, others, and the world. Okay. Now, where do you think our personality beliefs come from? Okay. So you're right. It's a combination of two things. You've probably heard people talk about nature and nurture. So nature is basically what we're born with, a tendency towards being maybe anxious or depressed. But what's important is this tendency isn't realised unless our environment brings it out. So we could be born with a tendency or a predisposition, as psychologists refer to it, to be quite anxious. But if our environment is very calming, that predisposition won't be realised. But equally, if we are born with a tendency towards being quite calm, but our environment is quite tense and stressful, that tendency won't be realised either. So our environment is very, very important. And the most important environment is our very early experiences, principally because they are our first experiences. And those first experiences always have the biggest impact. So I'm going to add that in there. Okay. Now I know there's quite a lot of information there, but as I said, I'm going to first phase of therapy, we're going to be working to stabilise or balance your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviour, so that on a day-to-day basis you start to feel better. But as you can see from this diagram, there's still some stuff up here that, if left, is going to feed down and possibly, probably, reignite these things here. So the second phase of therapy is about addressing what's up here. It's about addressing the factors that have made you vulnerable to developing these day-to-day symptoms in the first place, to ensure that these don't come back once therapy is over. Okay. Do you have any questions about that? Okay. So, what I'm going to suggest is that you take this diagram away with you and turn it over in your mind in the coming week. And then when you come back next week,